And of course, we alluded to mine disasters and threats come from all angles. And Larry, tell us a little bit about some of the other possibilities a miner faces and what can be done in lieu of the face of an emergency like that.
Okay, well, we talked about the different types of emergencies before, and you know, they're rare, but you never know when you're going to have to deal with one. Mm-hmm. So the challenges are for the miners to be prepared. And then once they prepare and then practice and have a lot of training to help them get to that point, then you know, basically you have to be challenged with a particular situation and communicate well exactly what the condition during that situation is. So communication is important, understanding what's going on as best as possible, and then, based upon the information that's available, making key decisions. So those key decisions, again, depend on the training. So putting on and donning self-contained self-rescuers is very important. Knowing your escape routes very well, your emergency response plan, and what will be going on simultaneously outside as you and your specific section or different location in a mine begin to respond as well. There's all kinds of things that can happen along the way. Maybe they'll get blocked. If they do get blocked, then they have to be prepared to know how to use a refuge alternative as a last resort and what to do to activate it, what kinds of things to expect. We have experts that will cover that as well. And then there is this sense of a time limit that's going on all at the same time, and the level of uncertainty and fear.
So one thing can actually lead to another in a domino effect. If something goes wrong in a deep mine, one problem can lead to another. And let's check out a scenario here on video where a wall or a ceiling collapses and it leads to another problem. How do these miners deal with this and potentially save their own lives?
In this situation, you can see that there's an arcing at the battery charging station on the section. This occurred because of a massive roof fall that occurred out by, and the cable has now shorted within the battery charging station, and it's leading to a very serious situation. We're going to pan back at this point, inby towards the face areas, and Jim Pablic, would you please elucidate on this?
Yes, thank you, Larry. What we see here is the section crew, and if you notice some fluctuation in the streamer that's hanging there, and what happened was the out-by cave has cut off the air to the section. So at this point, the crew's alerted to that, and the foreman will go and make a call to the outside person.
Outside, Roger, low, Roger.
Here's Dan in 1 North.
Yeah, Dan.
I've lost airflow at my face.
I need you to check and confirm proper fan operation.
The fan is running, but the COs on your belt line are climbing.
Fan is operational, CO is rising. I'm going to start evacuation procedures for my crew.
Now, as emergency response manager, what would you do, Jeffrey, as a reaction to an incident like that? How would you get swing into motion?
What's going to happen now is the mine foreman there is going to gather up his crew underground. They will go to a centralized location, which has already been pre-designated, and then they will go ahead and don their required SCSRs, which stand for self-contained self-rescuers, which they train on a quarterly basis. Once all the crew has been assembled in a central location, he has everybody and their plan has been put down. Now they're going to go ahead and practice their 2 lines of defense, which is escape and then evacuate the mine. And as we see from the video, that they won't try to go down the primary escapeway, which was that rope with those cones on. If that doesn't occur, as that was blocked by the caves, they're going to try the other 4 entries. Now what will happen then is they're going to realize that they do not have their 2 lines of defense, so they are going to have to go resort to the 3rd line of defense, which is now to retreat back to the refuge alternative.
So, Larry, this is considered the last resort when you retreat back into a mine. Is that what I'm understanding?
Absolutely the last resort. You'll hear that from just about every miner I've ever talked to.
Really?
and this is a pretty realistic situation.
And there are different types of refuge alternatives within a mine. Label some of those for us, if you would.
I'll tell you what, someone who's more expert than I am on that,
Okay.
and I'll ask Jeff Kravitz to please talk about that.
Sure. You have your prefabricated units that are self-contained, and then you have units that are we call in-place shelters. The prefabricated could be steel structures like the one shown in this picture, and there could be tent-like structures that have inflatable aspects to it. The prefabricated units have to be self-contained. The in-place structures are composed of 15 pounds per square inch PSI stoppings as a minimum. They're put into secure and safe areas of the mine. They have to have isolated atmospheres and basically have the same types of structural components and other components that are typical for all refuge alternatives. Literally, it's structural components. You have your breathable air components, your gas monitoring component, and then your removable of harmful gas components. So it's basically three types of units, two in one category, one in the other.
Very good. Jim Pablic of Amfire Mining is with us this afternoon as well. And Jim, when we get into a situation like this, I know talking to miners, you know, the first rule of thumb or the first thought is to get out. How do you train miners to actually go back into a mine, seek refuge, and learn how to use some of these safety devices?
That is very, very hard to do. Some of the older miners, I don't know if you'd ever convince them to go into a refuse alternative. And that is one of the major chores we do have in training. We do, as Jeffrey mentioned, we do a quarterly training on the escape ways, alternating every 3 months as to which escape way the crews would evacuate, so they're well versed in escaping the mine. During those evacuation drills, we also teach them what's in the returns in those areas, if they're sealed areas, if there's overcast doors or whatever it may be. So they are taught that. Every quarter, we also do the SCSR training that was mentioned earlier. And quarterly, we also do the refuse alternative, or in our case, fresh air bay training, whereas we take the people and have them actually inflate a fresh air bay, refuse alternative, and go inside and set up all the instrumentation and the scrubbing system and everything that's in there.
Okay.
But our most challenging issue is the one that you mentioned, overcoming the reluctance of the user of a refuse alternative, even when it may be their best chance of survival.
Yeah. I think what we're missing here, we show these simulations on the screen, and to our studio audience and you watching online or at home, it is pitch black in a mine. We lose sight of that fact when we're watching these simulations. Again, some of the safety things that you're taught, we're going to see here coming up about miners actually using and deploying that situation. We also have an expert coming up to talk about the psychological aspects of dealing with mine incidents and what happens afterwards as well.